All right, Shalom. I want to first start off giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, the men that taught us this truth through the Spirit, and peace and blessings unto the elect of the nation of Israel, which is us, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. We make up the biblical 12 tribes to the nation of Israel. This is the brother Abadia from the GMS Houston camp, here with another lesson, and Lord willing, I won't make it too long, and Lord willing, it can also be edifying. So I'm not sure what I'm gonna name this video, but I'm gonna go into the word preacher. I'm also going to the word pastor, because you have a lot of so-called preachers out in the world, okay, that are not deserving, or should I say, that title don't fit them. Okay, they call themselves pastors, right? And they say that they're preaching. That's why I said I'm gonna go into the word preacher and go into the word pastor, because you have these so-called pastors out here that are say that they're preaching. Okay, and I'm also say this: you have Israelite groups out here that are not pushing prophecy. Okay, I'm not saying that these other Israelite groups that teach don't go into prophecy. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there are Israelite groups out there, and I'm not calling out no group in particular, uh, but I have enough knowledge through watching the different groups to know that there are Israelite groups out there that are not pushing the prophecies of these scriptures. Okay, and we're supposed to be. Okay, we're supposed to be pastors that are preaching. Okay, so you have a lot of people out here that have these titles that are not fulfilling these titles, then dealing with the Israelites that the ones that know that they're Israelites and call themselves by different titles, and they're saying that they're teaching these scriptures. um, I'll say that they're not fulfilling the title of what they're supposed to be doing, which is to preach this word. Okay. Now, the word preacher, I found out what this word meant through the apostle Tahar, going into this, well, saying what the word meant, and I went and looked it up for myself, a while back, and got the understanding on this word. Okay, so if we go into the word preacher, it tells you right here that you got to look up the word preach. Okay, so let's just go ahead and go to preach. Now I'm gonna skip down to the compound of the word. It's two different words that make up this one word, preach or preacher. Okay, so we look right here. It says per means forward, hence in front of, or it says, I'm sorry, Salakia. Let me do that again. Say this again. It's from the Latin pre, which means before. I said per. That's the from the pi root per, but from the Latin pre, before. You see, plus right here it says plus the care, plus the care to proclaim or to say. Now, when we go into the word prophet, it means the exact same thing. To say before. So what do the prophets do? They say what's going to happen before it happens. Okay, according to the words of Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai. Okay, not according to their own words, not according to a dream that they had, not according to a vision that they had, unless that vision was from uh, the Most High. Okay, but it's not a thing of a true prophet speaks uh, by the information or the words that the Most High gives him. Okay, not by his own means. Okay, so we found out that the word preacher means prophet. Okay, or one who prophesies. One who prophesies, which to say before, right? So let's look up the word pastor real quick, and then we'll get into these scriptures. So for the word pastor, what I'll do is I'll read the definitions that it got for pastor. It says right here, shepherd, one who has care of a flock or herd. It says right here, spiritual guide, shepherd of souls, a Christian minister, Salakia, herdsman, shepherd. So shepherd and pastor, they mean the same thing. It says, and from Latin pastor, shepherd. You see that? So a pastor, and when you read about a pastor or you read about a shepherd, it's talking about the same thing. Okay? Then it goes on and says right here, to lead to pasture. Pasture is to feed. Okay? Because the main way that a pastor or a shepherd cares for the flock is by leading them to the pasture, which means the food. Let's look up pasture real quick. It says land covered with vegetation. That's right. So let's hit these. Let's get these scriptures real quick. I'll start with this. I'll leave this still shot up. I'm gonna go into my scriptures in the book, and I'm gonna read the scriptures from there. I'll leave this. Matter of fact, I'll leave this up. I'll leave preach up for the still shot for the rest of this lesson. Let's do this. All right, so I'll leave this up for the rest of the remainder of this lesson while we hit these scriptures. So first, I want to get St. John. St. John, I believe it's the. You can find the chapter and verse. I believe it's chapter 21. And this is the words of our Lord Yahweh Shai, right? So this is St. John 21 and 15. And it says, so when they had dined, Yahweh Shai said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me more than these? And these, he was talking about the food they was eating, which was the fish. Okay, it says, he said unto him, Yea, Lord, thou knowest that I love thee. He said unto him, Feed my lambs. So one that feeds the lambs, and it's talking about the house of Israel. The lambs are the house of Israel, or the sheep. Okay, that's the Israelites. Real quick, let's prove it. Luke chapter 19 and verse 10. Luke 19 and 10, it says this. It says, For the Son of Man is come to seek and to save that which was lost. And what was lost? Let's get it over here in Matthew 10 and 10, 5 and 6. Matthew chapter 10, verse 5 and 6, it says, These 12 Yahushua sent forth and commanded them, saying, Go not into the way of the Gentiles, and into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. So that which was lost is talking about the lost sheep of the house of Israel. All right, so going back to St. John 21, 21 and we'll go to 16. It says, He said to him again the second time, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me? He said unto him, Yea, Lord, thou knowest that I love thee. He said unto him, Feed my sheep. And we get to verse 17. He said unto him the third time, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me? Peter was grieved because he said unto him the third time, Lovest thou me? And he said unto him, Lord, thou knowest all things. Thou knowest that I love thee. Yahushua said unto him, Feed my sheep. So Yahushua wanted to drive the point home to Peter that when he leave, the most important thing that counts is for the sheep, which is the house of Israel, really the elect. It's all about the elect of Israel, okay, to be fed, which that's the sheep, okay. Now the main thing that the thing that's supposed to sit at the forefront of the feeding or the teaching is prophecy. Okay? The prophecy is the main thing that's supposed to be fed, like the main course of the meal that's supposed to be fed to the sheep. Okay? Now let's prove that. So the pastor is supposed to care for the flock, for the sheep. But the main way is to feed them. To feed them and to feed them what? The main course of the meal, which is prophecy. Okay, let's go to Revelation 19 and 10. Because prophecy sits at the forefront of these scriptures. Let's prove it. Revelation 19 and 10, it says, And I fell at his feet to worship him, and he said unto me, See thou do it not. I am thy fellow servant, and of thy brethren that have the testimony of Yahushua. Now we know according to Psalms 40 and 7, it says, matter of fact, let me just get it real quick. Psalms 40 and 7. It says, Then said I, lo, I come, in the volume of the book it is written of me. That's referring to Yahushua. This book is written of Yahushua. Okay? And this is his testimony. So his testimony the whole scriptures, you know, from Revelation through the Apocrypha through the book of Revelation. So it says, and of thy brethren that have the testimony of Yahushai. So the testimony of Yahushai are the scriptures. It says, worship Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, for the testimony of Yahushai is the spirit of prophecy. So Yahushai's testimony is all about the prophecy. That's the main thing. Okay? Now let's further go to show that prophecy sits at the forefront of the teaching. We go to the book of 1 Corinthians. So the preacher is supposed is a prophet. A preacher is a prophet, right? So it means they're supposed to be prophesying. Let's get this in 1 Corinthians 14. I'm gonna read 1 through 5, but it's about 3 verses within them 5 verses that I'm gonna highlight or emphasize on. 1 Corinthians 14 and 5, it says, follow after charity and desire spiritual gifts, but rather that ye may prophesy. So charity has to be there amongst possessing all the different gifts that we possess. You know, the teachers, right, or the ones that are part of the body of the ministry. There's many different gifts, and charity must be amongst all the gifts. Okay, it says, but the greatest gift is to prophesy, right? Let's read on. It says, for he that speaketh in an unknown tongue speaketh not unto men, but unto the Most High. For no man understandeth him, howbeit in the spirit he speaketh mysteries. In verse 3, I want to emphasize on this verse. But he that prophesied, the preacher, he that preacheth or prophesied, speaketh unto men to edification and exhortation and comfort. Verse 4 says, he that speaketh in an unknown tongue edifieth himself, but he that prophesieth edifieth the church. So that prophecy, when really bringing out the prophecies, a prophet or a preacher is supposed to prophesy, you're doing a lot for the sheep, because you definitely are teaching, but you're warning them, because prophecy warns the people of what's to come in the future. Okay, it edifies, it builds up our spirit. It exhorts, which is encourages, lifts us up in the spirit, and it comforts us, because ultimately we know what we know that the prophecy says that the nation of Israel is going to get the kingdom. We're going to rule this planet Earth in righteousness. And I read verse 5, it says, I would that ye speak with tongues, but rather that ye prophesy, for greater is he that prophesieth than he that speaketh with tongues, except he interpret, that the church may receive edifying. So we see through scripture that the prophecy or prophesying is sitting in the forefront of gifts that one may possess inside the ministry. All right, so the Most High is dealing with the prophets. He's always dealt with the prophets. He speaks through the prophets, right? So, these people out here call themselves pastors, and they're preaching these wacky tacky so-called Christians All right, talking about the leaders that call themselves pastors, and they say that they're preaching, because you know you have the ones in the audience that'll yell out, "Preach, preach," and he ain't up there preaching, because a preacher is a prophet. He's prophesying. He's supposed to be up there prophesying. They're not prophesying. Okay. And like I mentioned earlier, you got a lot of Israelites that are not pushing the prophecy. Yet they say that they're, you know, they teachers of Israel. They teaching His word. Where the teachers of Israel should be prophesying. That should be in the forefront of the teaching. Okay. Amos 3:7. The Most High would surely do nothing, but He revealed His secrets to His servants, the prophets. And let's jump over to the book of Romans, the 10th chapter. Okay. Romans, the 10th chapter, starting at the 13th verse, it says this. For whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. How then shall they call on Him in whom they have not believed? And how shall they believe in Him of whom they have not heard? And how shall they hear without a preacher? In essence, what this is saying, to answer the question is, well, in essence, what it's saying is, there's no way you're going to hear the words of the Most High in truth and in spirit, according to St. John 4:22, because it say the worshipers of the Most High must worship Him in truth and in spirit, right? The only way you're gonna hear that, the truth of the scriptures, is by a preacher. So it's the answer. Why I say this, there is no way you can hear the truth without a preacher, and a preacher is a prophet, as we went into the word preacher. Okay, the etymology of the word preacher. So the answer is, because it's a question mark after what Paul said, and how shall they hear without a preacher? It's asking a question. They can't hear without a preacher, or they will not hear without a preacher. And the scriptures tell us, as we read in verse 17, same chapter, Romans 10 and 17. So then faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by the word of the Most High. Who's going to be pushing out those faithful words? Because we all believed through the hearing of the Most High's word that came by who? The prophets, or as we read the preacher. Same meaning. Preacher and prophet, or to preach and to prophesy. Right? Now, I got a few more scriptures and I'm going to close this lesson out. Matthew, go back to Matthew 10, 5 and 6. Let's go back to 10, 5 and 6. So really, being a preacher and a pastor go hand in hand. Okay? Being a preacher and a pastor goes hand in hand. Matthew chapter 10 verse, reading it again. Matthew chapter 10 verse 6 and 7. It says, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, and as ye go, preach. As ye go, preach. So as you go, prophesy, saying the kingdom of heaven is at hand. And we know, according to Jeremiah 3 and 15, let's get that real quick. So as we see right here, real quick, I want to make a point before I go to Jeremiah 3 and 15. The sheep needs a pastor. The lost sheep of the house, if the sheep are lost, they need a pastor to guide them, okay, and feed them, right, to show them the right way. And the main thing that's gonna show them the right way is prophecy. Prophecy edified is breaking down the prophecies of the scriptures. All right, now let's get Jeremiah 3:15. And it says this, and I will give you pastors according to mine heart, which shall feed you, just like we read over in Matthew 10 and 6 and 7. Because Yahushua was sending out the 12 to be pastors and to preach, okay, the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And right here it's saying the Most High will give the house of Israel, that's who it's referring to you, Israelites, pastors according to mine heart, or his heart, which shall feed you with knowledge and understanding. And the main course of the feeding is prophecy, right? As we didn't show that prophecy is sitting at the forefront of the feeding, okay? In last scripture, I don't really have to bring this out, but just want to bring it out. Noah was a preacher of righteousness. You know what? I don't have to bring that out. I was gonna, make a point, but the point's been made. Pastors and the fulfillment of being a pastor and a preacher goes hand in hand. Okay. And you, like I said, you have these people out here call themselves pastors, and they're not preaching. They're not feeding the flock with the words of prophecy. And you got a lot of Israelites that are not pushing prophecy. Now, this COVID-19 didn't kicked off. You probably got more Israelite groups that are pushing prophecy now. Okay? So, prophecy stands in the forefront of the teachings. That's why through the Spirit, the Apostle Tahar deemed this year, a phrase this year, 2020, the year of prophecy. So Lord willing, with that, this lesson was edifying. And once again, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakakadash. Double honor to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, the men that taught us this truth through the Spirit. And peace and blessings unto the elect of the nation of Israel. Shalom.